Every morning we wake up and fall into the same cycle. Wake, work, eat, sleep, repeat. Day after day the routine persists, an endless loop that rarely breaks. But why? What's the point of it all? Perhaps you've felt it, that strange, unsettling sensation when everything suddenly feels devoid of meaning. The things that once mattered begin to seem hollow. Life itself begins to resemble a machine, functioning without direction, without purpose. Albert Camus felt it too. Yet instead of sinking into despair, he uncovered an insight, one powerful enough to transform how we perceive life. For thousands of years, humanity held on to a unifying narrative, an anchor. Every birth, every struggle, every heartbreak was part of a grand divine design. Life was hard, but at least it had meaning. Suffering wasn't senseless, it was a test, a lesson, or even a path to something higher. Death wasn't the end, but merely a gateway to another existence, a reunion with something eternal. This belief provided comfort. People looked at the vastness of the universe and saw intention. They looked at their pain and saw significance. There was a sense of certainty that made life not just bearable, but meaningful. Then everything changed. The rise of science reshaped our understanding of the world. Charles Darwin proposed that life wasn't crafted by divine hands, but by the slow, indifferent process of evolution. The Big Bang Theory suggested that the universe didn't begin with us in mind. It came into being through blind physical forces, governed by mathematical laws, not moral ones. Disease, natural disasters, suffering, these were not punishments or divine messages. They were random, chaotic, meaningless. And as science offered increasingly accurate explanations, the old stories began to fade. Religion lost its hold, and with it, humanity lost something profound: certainty. Friedrich Nietzsche saw it coming. When he proclaimed God is dead, it wasn't a celebration, it was a warning. He didn't mean a deity had literally died. He meant that belief itself was crumbling. Faith, once the foundation of morality, society, and purpose, was disintegrating. And when faith vanishes, so does the structure it once provided. For centuries, people had turned to religion to answer life's biggest questions. Why are we here? What is our purpose? What happens after we die? But now those answers were gone. In their place was only silence, a cold, indifferent universe, stretching endlessly in all directions, offering no guidance, no grand design, no final destination. This wasn't just a philosophical problem, it was deeply personal. When meaning is stripped away, so is our stability. People were left facing the void, trying to make sense of their own existence. If there's no higher purpose, why get up in the morning? Why go to work, chase dreams, fall in love, build families? If it all dissolves into nothing, what's the point? For many, this realization is terrifying. Some collapse into despair, others cling to comforting illusions. Many numb themselves with distractions, money, status, pleasure, anything to avoid confronting the terrifying truth that life might be inherently meaningless. And that's where Albert Camus comes in. He faced this existential crisis and didn't flinch. He asked the same terrifying questions. He stared into the void and found something unexpected. Not just a way to survive in a meaningless world, but a way to live joyfully within it. Humans possess an unshakable need for meaning. From the moment we learn to ask why, we demand answers. Why are we here? What's our purpose? Is there something greater than all this? We gaze into the stars, into the infinite, and long for a voice to respond, to assure us we matter, that our joys, our grief, our love are not in vain. But the universe remains silent. No voice echoes back from the void. No divine script unfurls from the sky. No cosmic force whispers that everything will be all right. Camus called this the absurd, the clash between our desperate need for meaning and a universe that offers none. It's like shouting into an empty canyon, waiting for an answer that never comes. And that silence, it's excruciating. So most people try to escape it. Camus described 3 common responses to the absurd: denial, clinging to artificial meaning. Some refuse to accept life's lack of inherent meaning. They adopt ready-made answers, Religions, political ideologies, cultural myths. These stories provide comfort and order, but they often demand blind faith, ignoring the universe's indifference. Nihilism, sinking into despair. Others swing to the opposite extreme. If life has no meaning, then nothing matters. Love, beauty, morality, mere illusions. This path leads to cynicism, depression, even self-destruction. If nothing matters, why bother? Escape, drowning in distractions. The most common reaction: people bury the void beneath work, entertainment, pleasure. They chase money, status, and temporary highs. But beneath the surface, many feel hollow, scrolling. Endlessly partying without joy, succeeding without fulfillment. They're not living, they're running from silence, from fear, from the truth that life might not come with instructions. But Camus, he didn't run. He faced the absurd head-on and made a radical choice. He embraced it. And in that act of defiance, he discovered a fourth response, one that could lead not just to survival, but to genuine happiness. Camus found his answer in an ancient myth, the story of Sisyphus. Sisyphus was no ordinary man. He was a king, cunning and rebellious. He defied the gods, escaped the underworld, and tried to outwit death itself. Too clever for his own good, he was punished with the cruelest fate imaginable: eternal, meaningless labor. Every day, Sisyphus was forced to roll a massive boulder up a steep mountain, and just when he neared the summit, the rock would tumble, back down, again and again, forever. No rest, no reward, no escape. It was the ultimate curse. The gods knew that physical pain could be endured, but hopelessness? That destroys the soul. And what could be more hopeless than a task with no end, no progress, no purpose? To most, the myth is a nightmare, a metaphor for life's futility. We wake, we work, we strive, we fail, we repeat, and in the end, death. All accomplishments forgotten, monuments crumble, names fade. And yet, Camus reimagined this story. He didn't see Sisyphus as defeated. He saw him as triumphant, because Sisyphus, fully aware of his fate, chooses to keep going. He finds peace not in the task, but in his defiance. The rock may roll back down, but he pushes it again, not because it will change anything, but because he owns the act. The struggle itself becomes his meaning. One must imagine Sisyphus happy, Camus writes. This is Camus's radical message. Even in a meaningless world, we can create meaning, not by escaping, denying, or despairing, but by living fully, embracing the absurd, and choosing our path with awareness and courage. We may not find answers in the sky, but we can find them in our actions, in choosing to love, to create, to connect, to persist, not because it matters in some cosmic sense, but because we decide it matters. That is the freedom the absurd offers, the freedom to live without illusion, to embrace life not despite its meaninglessness, but because of it. In a world without guarantees, every moment becomes sacred. Every act of kindness, every burst of laughter, every small triumph over the void, it all shines brighter when you stop expecting the universe to explain itself. So like Sisyphus, push your boulder, not because the hill matters, but because you do. Forgotten civilizations rise and fall. If life is nothing more than an endless cycle of struggle leading to oblivion, then what's the point? This is why many view Sisyphus as a tragic figure. His torment mirrors our own. His punishment reflects our daily grind. His unanswered questions echo our endless search for meaning in a silent universe. But Camus saw something radically different, something that turns the entire story upside down. What if Sisyphus isn't suffering? What if, in an unexpected twist, he's actually free? At first, it sounds absurd. How could anyone be free in a fate as bleak as his? But here's what Camus realized. The moment Sisyphus accepts his reality, when he stops resisting, stops longing for things to be different, he becomes more powerful than the gods who cursed him. They wanted to break him, to crush his spirit with hopelessness. But what if he simply refuses to suffer? Picture Sisyphus standing at the foot of the mountain, watching his boulder tumble down again. But this time, instead of cursing the gods or falling into despair, he just shrugs, takes a breath, and begins pushing once more. No complaints, no self-pity, no need for a grand reason. And what if, as he walks down to retrieve his burden, he smiles? Camus wrote, "One must imagine Sisyphus happy. That single line changes everything, because it suggests that we are not defeated by meaninglessness unless we allow ourselves to be. Life's lack of inherent purpose is not a curse, it's an invitation." Camus believed that we are all Sisyphus. Every morning, we rise, we go to work, we chase dreams. We stumble, we get back up, we build relationships, we create, we try to carve out a place in the world. And yes, ultimately, all of it resets. Generations from now, nothing we do may be remembered. But does that make it meaningless? Only if we choose to see it that way. Here's the key. Once we accept that life has no grand cosmic meaning, we are free to create our own. Think about it. If life came with a predetermined purpose, we'd be confined by it. We'd be actors in a script written by someone else. But because no such script exists, we're liberated. Instead of waiting for the universe to hand us meaning, we realize we don't need one. We stop searching for justification and start living for the experience itself. This is the heart of absurdism. Not pretending life has a divine purpose, and not collapsing into nihilism either. It's the bold rebellion of choosing to live anyway. Not for a reward, not for an afterlife, not for destiny or fate, but simply because we can. Because joy is still possible, even in a meaningless universe. Because we can choose to love, to create, to laugh, to explore. Not for a higher reason, but because it's worth it now. This is how we find freedom in the absurd. Life isn't a curse, it's a playground. A space where we can explore, build, fail, and feel everything deeply, without needing cosmic permission. And that's why Sisyphus is happy. He knows his task is endless, he knows the boulder will always roll back down, but he pushes it anyway. Not because it will lead to some final destination, but because he chooses to. And when we stop asking, what's the point, and start asking, why not, that's when we become free. That's when life becomes lighter, more vibrant, more exciting. Because instead of searching for a meaning that doesn't exist, we begin creating one of our own. And in that moment, we win the game of the absurd. Camus didn't stop at philosophy. He believed absurdism wasn't something to merely think about. It was something to live. It wasn't about sitting around contemplating the void. It was about transforming that void into fuel for action. So how do we live an absurdist life? Here are 3 practical ways. Take action without overthinking. Most of us are paralyzed by overanalysis. What if I fail? What if it's the wrong choice? But here's the truth. The universe doesn't care. Worrying won't stop the chaos. Lost your job? Life goes on. Failed at something. Welcome to being human. The boulder rolls back down no matter what. So stop overthinking and act. Whether you succeed or fail, the result is the same. So why not move? To rebel through joy. People think the absence of meaning leads to despair. Camus saw the opposite. It's the source of freedom. When you laugh, even knowing life is absurd, you rebel. When you love, knowing nothing lasts, you rebel. When you create even in the face of impermanence, you rebel. Every act of joy is defiance. So don't wait for a reason. Laugh loudly. Love deeply. Explore for the sheer thrill of it. Flip the question. Before big decisions, we ask, why should I? And our mind responds with fear. It's too risky, too uncertain, too impractical. But Camus would urge us to flip the question. Why not? Why not start the business, take the risk, travel, learn, follow your passion? The boulder's coming down anyway, so why not enjoy the climb? Camus' absurdism is not surrender, it's revolt. It's choosing to live fully, act boldly, and feel deeply without waiting for permission from the universe. Once you begin seeing life this way, everything changes. You stop waiting, you stop hesitating, you stop worrying about things that don't matter, and you start living. From the moment we're born, we're told life has a purpose. Society, religion, culture, they all offer prepackaged answers. This is the path, this is what gives life meaning. And so we chase success, relationships, ideologies. But what if the truth is this? There is no inherent meaning, not in the stars, not in destiny, not buried in ancient texts. At first, that idea feels terrifying, but Camus saw freedom in it. Without predetermined meaning, we're unshackled, free. From expectation, free from pressure, free from the burden of justification. And in that freedom, we gain something powerful, the ability to create meaning, not because the universe gives it to us, but because we choose it ourselves. Camus's message is both simple and profound. Live fully, laugh loudly, love deeply, create, explore, experience. Not because life has a purpose, but because you are alive. And that, in itself, is enough. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. Albert Camus so. What do you think? Do you agree with Camus's perspective on life and meaning? Let me know in the comments. If you found this video thought-provoking, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new upload. See you in the next one.